KTRS.
942, Big 550 KTRS. Sit back and listen to this yarn that you should know about from your hometown. Dave Aubuchon joins us, is a local parishioner from the Shrine of St. Joseph, which is right next to the Edward Jones Dome, or the Dome, I guess, downtown. Dave, welcome to the Big 550 KTRS.
Thanks, McGraw.
You were a descendant of Ignatius Stricker, and 153 years ago, March 16th, is a true miracle that happened right here in St. Louis?
Yes, it's a Vatican authenticated miracle.
I need you to talk right into the microphone, because the miracle of radio doesn't work unless you talk right into the microphone there.
Yeah, it was a Vatican authenticated miracle.
A Vatican authenticated miracle, and this past weekend at St. Joseph's Church, they had I guess they welcomed all of the descendants.
The descendants of Ignatius Stricker, yes.
And you were there along with 30 others, is that right?
A little more than 30, yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to 1853, right? Is that right?
Okay, that's when they came to St. Louis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When Ignatius Stricker came to St. Louis.
When did the miracle happen? 1864?
1861.
1861.
Is when it started, and it was proclaimed, I believe. Well, I'm sorry. He was injured in 1861.
Okay.
And the miracle happened in 1864.
Okay, so 1861, we're talking Civil War times.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So April or March of 1861, what happened?
He was injured in an accident at work. Somehow a piece of steel punctured his breastbone and got his ribs infected with I don't know what they called it at the time.
Right.
But different doctors had seen him, and they brought in specialists. And
it was like a giant spear or something. Went
a
through
jagged edge of steel is what it's described as in the information.
All right.
And then let's see, there was a visiting missionary priest that had a relic of Peter Claver, who had great intercessory powers with God.
Okay.
And his wife, Ignatius Stricker's wife, had been to that mission where he was blessing the crowd with the relic of Peter Claver. So she had went home, and in turn she asked her husband and begged him to go to that. So he did. I guess it was the next day, next night, or whatever. And the brochure says that he actually needed help to come into the church because he could barely walk.
Right.
But then after he was blessed with the relic and he kissed the relic, he just couldn't explain what happened. It was just a feeling that he was going to live. And I think it says that within a week he was back to work.
Now he gets impaled with the steel in 1861.
1861.
In 1864
is when
this happened. So for 3 years, the man is barely holding on.
Right. He was going downhill.
Right.
And nothing could cure what was ailing him.
Right. And he goes and what does he do? He pays homage to this.
Pays homage to the relic. He kisses the relic, and the visiting missionary priest, I guess, blessed him with the relic.
Right.
And he just felt some kind of insurgence in his body.
He lived another 16 years and never had another relapse.
Correct. And when his death certificate, he died of typhoid fever.
Typhoid fever. Right. And
it was not anything related to his previous injury.
Now, where did the miracle happen? So explain to us how the Vatican gets into all this.
I'm not sure how the Vatican got involved, other than it happened at St. Joseph's Church. The church that's there now,
right.
It happened in actually the first church. There was a little bit smaller church.
Oh, okay.
That was turned 90 degrees to the one that's there.
Right.
The miracle actually happened in that church. And then I guess several years later, it's in the story if you get any of the brochures or you go to their website. The Vatican heard of it, and then they did an investigation. And for canonization to become a saint, there has to be 2 miracles attributed to the person.
Right.
And this was one of the 2 miracles that certified Peter Claver to become Saint Peter Claver.
Right. And so that was the second miracle that made this man a saint.
Correct.
Unbelievable story. So now it says here in 1953, the Stricker descendants gave the St. Peter Claver statue to St. Joseph's in remembrance of the miracle. So that is that the relic? Is that
No. This is just a statue.
Okay, just a statue.
Yeah, my grandfather and grandmother was there for that.
When you say a relic, what do you mean? What does that mean?
I'm not actually sure. It's usually like a bone fragment or something to
so it was something
to that
from
nature from his physical body.
From his physical body.
That's
right.
my understanding. Yes.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. Okay. They also said he was hurt in a factory accident. Tumor-like inflammation began to appear at his chest. Violent coughing set in. He was diagnosed with tuberculosis. He grew very weak, and doctors gave him 2 weeks to live. And in 1864, he was brought to St. Joseph's with the aid of his family, and that's when he blessed with the relic of Peter Claver. And at that precise moment, he suddenly felt the increase in courage and the feeling he was going to live, something he hadn't felt in months. He walked out of the church unassisted, and he lived for another 16 years. It's really unbelievable.
It is. It's a miracle.
And this is your
great-great-grandfather.
Great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
Now, that's the first story. There's another story of St. Joseph's that isn't technically a miracle, but
Right, they call it the altar of answered prayers.
which is another unbelievable story. What's that story?
That story was during a cholera outbreak in 1866, I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm not positive of the year.
Right.
There was a cholera outbreak, and they was having funerals through that church, multiples per day, and in one particular day they had 25 funerals out of that church.
Right.
So the priest at the time gathered the parishioners together and asked them to make a solemn vow that if they don't have any more deaths within their parish, that they will build some sort of shrine to St. Joseph. So all the parishioners signed up on this sheet, and they all pledged money. I think it was a little over $4,000 at that time. I'm sure that was a lot of money.
Sure.
So as it turned out, from that day forward, there was never another cholera death in that parish. So they created this altar of answered prayers, is what they call it. It's still in the church today.
That's a great story. And when I got laid off from KTRS Radio, a dear friend of mine went to St. Joseph's Catholic Church and prayed for me. 2 weeks later, I got my job back.
Good for you.
How about that, huh?
Good for you.
All right, so something else I was going to ask you. St. Joseph, that's the statue. Is that hopeless unanswered prayers, right? That's St. Joseph's, right? Because you were supposed to bury the St. Joseph statue upside down behind your house.
Oh,
so
if you're trying to sell your house.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
I've
the
heard
same St. Joseph.
I believe so, yeah.
All right, good. Dave Aubuchon with just a local parishioner got a hold of me. It's a great story to tell, one in which everybody in St. Louis should know because it's just a great story, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm not a member of the Shrine of St. Joseph's Parish. I'm actually belong to St. Theodore Parish out in Flint Hill.
We won't hold that against you. But you
Oh,
are...
no, it's the best kept secret in St. Charles County.
But you are a descendant of Ignatius Stricker.
Yes.
The man who was saved after paying homage to Peter Claver, and that was one of the miracles that led to the canonization of St. Peter Claver
Yes.
to sainthood. Thanks for coming in. Great story.
Well, thanks for having me.
9:50.